Let's go to Ryan Aber, and then we'll go to Eric Bailey. Ryan?
Yeah, Lincoln, appreciate you doing this. Wanted to check in and ask you how the three Tennessee transfers were doing so far in the spring. How have those guys fit in with your team and how they looked?
I would say all three of them have done a great job fitting in with the team. I mean, I give them and our team credit. I mean, that transition feels pretty seamless, which is not always easy on both sides. And so I think that's been great. As far as on the field, I would say both Eric and Key have done a good job. They've been able to practice each day. Wanya was a little limited with just a minor nick coming in, and so he's just now getting able to be able to go through the bulk of the reps and practice. So haven't been able to see quite as much of him yet. But all guys have done a nice job. Eric and Kia both are both explosive. Really nice skill players, and like I said, we'll continue to evaluate Wanya as we can get some more reps into him.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. Eric Bailey, and then Joe Bettner.
Hey, Lincoln. I just wanted to ask you just about Caleb Williams. How's he adapting to the offense, and just what has his early leadership qualities been like for you?
He's doing well. I think it's each day he gets a little bit more comfortable. He goes out there, he makes some plays, he makes mistakes. We come back in and correct as quickly as we can, and try to turn it over. And I'll give him credit. A lot of the mistakes he's making, he's learning from, and so he's benefiting from getting a lot of reps right now. And like I said, you see his ability, you see some playmaking ability, which we knew he had, and so it's just a fight and a climb each day. To get better, to learn to learn his teammates, to communicate, to execute. But I think I've seen progression without a doubt from day one through today. He gets a little bit better each day, and that's what I'm looking for.
Lincoln, appreciate it. Have a good Easter.
You too.
Joe Bettner, and then Jason Kersey.
Yeah, Lincoln, I wanted to ask you about Mikey Henderson, obviously moving over to running back, and I'm sure just the way you use those guys, he's not going to be just limited to that, but how is he adjusting to kind of that new role, and how flexible can he still be with a guy like him with his skill set?
Yeah, he can do a lot of things for us. He played in the backfield a lot for us last year too. So in a lot of ways, what we're doing with him right now is just an extension of that. So he's doing a nice job. I mean, we're trying to push him to make that jump from being a guy that was a role player for us and did an outstanding job his first year. But that jump from becoming a role player to becoming a guy that plays a bulk of snaps is not an easy jump. You've got to you got to know the whole offense. You got to be able to execute a wider variety of assignments. Understand game plans, understand different defensive looks, and so that's a push right now. But I think he's doing pretty well with it. Making some plays as he's always done, and getting more consistent with his assignments, and becoming a more consistent player without the ball.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Jason Kersey, and then Bob Prisbillo.
Yeah, Lincoln, I wanted to ask you about Joe Jon and how he's fit in so far. What's the hardest thing about being a new coach with a new group of players, particularly when the last group or the group got along well with Coach Beamer, I know, and they really liked working with him. And then also, is that even harder in a pandemic?
Joe Jon's doing great. He's been fantastic so far. Everything that I hoped we would get in the with the hire. So he's done a really nice job just acclimating with our staff. And a lot of our staff members knew him and have worked with him in other spots. And some of the guys obviously crossed over during his time here at Oklahoma. So it wasn't like we were bringing in a guy that nobody knew, and that's helped. But he's great. He brings a great perspective offensively, brings a great perspective on the special team side of it. He's inheriting one of our most experienced groups on the football team, which I think is a great thing for a new coach. And I think that group's taken to him well. And, just he's got a great way about him. And then you can certainly, feel that this guy, really, really knows tight end play at an elite level, and you can tell that he played it at an elite level. He's coached it at an elite level. So it's been a good, fresh perspective for us in our offensive room as coaches. I think it's been a good, fresh perspective for our guys before, and then knowing him, he's a big relationship guy as well, and he'll do a great job with that group.
Okay, let's go to Bob Prisbillo and then Mason Young.
Lincoln, is there anything from all the adjustments that you made for COVID-19 in terms of like the way you're running the team and things like that you're now carrying over into this spring? Like you've now fully incorporated into how you're coaching the team?
That's a good question. So yeah, because some of it still just feels normal now. There's still some things, I guess, from a protocol standpoint, but adjustments just in how we run practices or anything like that, honestly, not really. And to be honest, for us, I mean, practices, for the most part for us weren't much different even before. So, we're still limited, within the building, what we can do with them, how many people we can put in a meeting room, masking in meeting rooms. I mean, kind of all that. We still have those limitations, but we're back to meeting in person, full time, which is great. Like I said, practices are are back to normal in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't say anything like directly from COVID that's like just changed the way that we do things now.
Mason Young and then James Hale.
Yeah, Lincoln, I was just curious to know what Austin Stogner looks like 2 weeks into the spring, and with Joe Jon coaching him, just how much does that relatability of having played at OU and also played his position at the highest level just benefit that relationship and his growth?
Yeah, Stog's done well. He's been a little limited for us. Throughout spring, it's been a slow, kind of a slow return, and I wouldn't say really a slow return off of his injury, but there's some natural ups and downs that you're going to have with that thing that he's going through right now. And so, we don't have him full go for every practice. There's some days where he feels really good and does the full deal. And then there's some days where it's just not right. We gotta back it off and even shutting down for a period of time. So that's been a little bit of back and forth. Hall and Willis have certainly taken the majority of reps and done a great job with them up to this point. And yeah, I think, Joe Jon's experience, having played the position, in different offenses, doing it doing it at the NFL level, doing it here at Oklahoma, it's been great for those guys. I mean, there's just, when you haven't played when you have played a position for as long as he has, there's just little things that you pick up on as a player that are hard to replicate if you haven't played the position. And there's just some of those little things you see with Joe Jon that you could tell, you could tell he's been in that tight end room for a long time, and he's taken a lot of snaps and a lot of meetings and just a lot of time invested at it over the years. So I think that'll benefit all three of our tight ends.
Go to James Hale and then John Hoover.
Hi, Lincoln. I hope things are going well. The H-back and tight end position is an incredibly strong position for OU. You've carried on what Bob developed here, and you've actually enhanced it and made it better. You've added Joe Jon now, who's played the position. I'm curious, as you continue to recruit, is it getting easier to find guys that can play those positions, or are you having to get imaginative to find guys to move them there? Because it's not necessarily a glamour position, but it's an incredibly important position for you.
Yeah, I would say it's not easier to find guys. It's probably easier to recruit guys right now because there's, very few people in the country, if any, that are as committed to using those positions as we are. And,
right.
And our recruits see that. I mean, they see that position's on the field for us every snap. And they see for a large percentage that we've got two of those guys out there, and not just simply being there, but all the different things that we've done with Dimitri Flowers and Mark Andrews and Carson Meyer, and of course Jeremiah and Braden and Stog, and just kind of all the guys through the years. We've just done a lot of things with those guys, and and had a lot of success doing it. So they're still hard to find. It's hard to find guys that mentally, we've talked about it a lot, is through evaluation and around signing day. I mean, guys that mentally and physically can do all the things we want them to do. There's just not many of them out there, in our opinion. So, but we do feel like the guys that we zero in on, that they're going to look at Oklahoma and say, that's a little bit different opportunity than maybe the other ones out there.
Thanks, Lincoln.
John Hoover and then Brandon Drum.
Hey, Lincoln, I want to explore Joe Jon a little bit more. Philosophically speaking, when you go to hire a coach, you've done it enough now. You've probably established some guidelines for yourself. I just wonder, without giving away any secrets, are there red flags that pop up with guys that you try to stay away from? Are there certain characteristics that really say to you, that's a guy I need to look further at or make some phone calls about? How does you go about that process?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's I think for me, it starts as, kind of getting a pool of people that I'm interested in, which typically I would actually walk that back. The first thing I always look for is what do I need out of the position? What do we need out of the position? And that changes, that's just because one coach leaves with a certain skill set, that doesn't mean you're always necessarily going to find the carbon copy of that out there. I mean, it's, you got different skill sets on the staff, and you've got I think your job as a head coach to have a feel for what is needed at that time. And so try to identify that, and then get a pool of guys. Then at that point, typically, start to run, start to do homework on them and look for any of those potential red flags. And yeah, in this day and age, there's a million potential red flags that would cause us to say no, and have caused us to say no on guys, whether it's something off the field, whether it's compliance, and NCAA violations. I mean, that's certainly happened here. I mean, without a doubt. So yeah, and then once we kind of cleared that in, then typically have conversations with a couple of guys, and in a normal world, you get in front of them face to face. But I normally have a pretty good idea. It doesn't. I'm not one of these guys that has to interview 10 people. I mean, that's not ever really been my style. I don't like doing the token interviews and all that. I mean, I put myself on the other side. I don't want somebody interviewing me just for the hell of it. When I was a young coach, if I had no chance of getting a job, I mean, that's a waste of everybody's time. So typically talk to a couple of guys, and normally it's kind of deals when you just know, and I've been lucky, been able to, I think, land on some people that have really made a difference here.
Okay, Brandon Drum and then Garen Emig.
Yeah, Lincoln, can you talk about the early enrollees? I know you guys are halfway through the spring bowl right now, and just I guess their overall understanding and their development so far.
Yeah, I'd have to say been pleased with the group so far as a whole. I think physically it's a group that's come in, and the majority, if not all of them, physically are going to be ready to help this football team win games next year. Now they still have a lot of development physically to go, but there's not really, to me, anybody in the class you look at and say, man, there's just no way they're physically going to be ready. So I think the group is, I think we chose some good guys, and some guys came in and really worked and developed themselves before they came in, and that had a really good first off-season run here. And then on the field, I mean, as a whole, I mean, they make a lot of plays. They get you excited. They make a lot of mistakes that bring you back down to earth. That no, there's still a lot of coaching, a lot of work that's got to get done for them to become the players they can be. But it's a competitive group, and they're hungry, and they're working hard. They've all done a pretty nice job adapting to the college life and the college academic schedule, which is such a big transition in the beginning. So it's been an exciting group so far, and definitely will be ready here in June to get the rest of that group here with us.
Garen Emig and then Josh Calloway.
Lincoln, I apologize for not following up on this last time you were on. I hope you'll bear with me. I'm just trying to understand a little bit specifically about your aversion to the interconference deal, the transfer deal. When you reference negatives, Are you talking about, or is your worry about what coaches would do if those were loosened up, or is that more about players?
Well, I mean, what I would say about the whole thing is, I went through this, and we went through this with Austin Kendall a few years ago. Myself and most other college coaches for years and years have been against interconference transfers. The difference is right now in this climate, not a lot of people are willing to speak up on stuff like this, and that's just what it is. The reason I eventually released Austin Kendall was because at the end of the day, I believed I should not be able to restrict somebody that earned their degree that was a graduate. And I didn't like the fact that there was going to be a transfer in conference and be eligible. Again, if you guys want to transfer, anybody can transfer anywhere. But I didn't like that. But I felt at the end of the day, the guy had earned his degree, and just like that's no different than a coach. Ain't no coaches getting hired that don't have their degrees. If you've got your degree, if you've earned part of this thing as student athlete, and if you've done your part in the classroom and earned a degree, I think that should give you some rights that maybe other people shouldn't have, in my opinion. Again, doesn't mean you can't go anywhere, but I just don't know my concerns on it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tampering, number one, by a long ways. And then I think the other thing too is it's going to just encourage more and more and more transfers. And we're already looking at a transfer portal saying there's too many guys in the portal. There's more transfer portal spots or more transfer portal people in there than there are scholarships out there. And this will do nothing but increase it. And it's, I don't think it's good for leagues. I don't think it's healthy that you could recruit a player, and once and then a few months later, you're competing against that player for 3 or 4 more times in their career, and vice versa. I don't think it's good for the college game. That's my opinion. Now, if you're a graduate, again, to me, totally different story. So, and honestly, this one's been hard on me. I mean, honestly, like Austin's was. I mean, Chandler Morris was in my room. I admittedly get closer to those quarterbacks than probably anybody on the team, just because I'm with them every single day. And the human side of me, deep down, hell yeah, I want to release Chandler. I mean, I do, the same way I wanted to release Austin Kendall. And I got that inner battle of, do I do what the human side of me wants to do? Because of course I want the kid to be able to play, versus the side of me that believes that just going along with that is not good for our game. And that's the inner struggle that I've had with this. And, but that's where it stands. We'll see what happens with this rules wise. There's a whole lot else that's going to happen. I get that. But I know some people agree with me. Some people disagree with me. I've had more coaches than you can imagine, hit me up and thank me for stepping out for it, because a lot of people believe, again, there's guys can transfer anywhere they want. It's not about us trying to restrict the ability to transfer, but it's trying to limit interconference transfers, because there's just the tampering on that it's already a major issue right now. Let's just put it that way. It's a major issue, and everybody knows it.
Worse than if a transfer goes to a out of conference school. Is what you're saying. That element is there in conference.
Oh, it'll absolutely make it worse. I mean, it's already bad that way. If we allow it interconference, then it's a hard thing. And right now, we have not proven that we have the ability to stop it, to enforce those rules. It's not happening, or what we're doing is not working. So my confidence in us being able to enforce it and fix it is very low right now.
Thanks for your patience.
Absolutely.
We've got time for one more. Josh Calloway.
Yeah, Lincoln, I just wanted to ask about Marcus Major. Just, I guess, what you've seen from him early on in the spring, and just how much growth he's capable of having, going to next season specifically.
Yeah, Marcus has a lot of ability, man. He really does. And I know I said it a bunch at the end of last season. I was really proud of the kid and how he, kind of fought back, played some early for us, had some success, did some really nice things in the Texas game. Ramondre came back. TJ got kind of hot. We ended up playing those guys a little bit more through the middle to end. And I give Marks a lot of credit, man. A lot of young guys would have went in the tank, started thinking about all kinds of stuff. Poor me. Should I transfer this or that? All he did was stay back and work and work and work. And he got better, even though it wasn't necessarily on Saturdays on the TV screen. And, all of a sudden here comes up to bowl game, gets his opportunity and was lights out in the Cotton Bowl against Florida. So I think gave him a lot of confidence. He's had a tremendous offseason. He's been able to trim some weight. I think he's running better. But he's a guy that has, he's got every skill that you could want in an elite running back, and his confidence in his game is really coming along with it. So excited about the year that he could have.